Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. And already, we're starting off on the right foot here.
Oh, we are starting off on the right foot.
This is the beginning of the season, right? So this is you are listening to this right. Remember, we record this on Wednesday.
Yes.
But we actually say it you hear it on Saturday. So you're hearing this is the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yep. Recorded the day before Thanksgiving. Yep.
And recording the day before. So we're so we're like pre-Thanksgiving, so we're pumped up, right? We're all Tom's here, Jay's here, I'm here. It's Money in the Law.
Everyone's in a great mood.
Everybody's in a great mood.
Everyone's excited.
And you guys, everybody who's now you're listening to this on Saturday, and you're like, you're in a great mood.
Now you're fired up.
Thanksgiving, and you know what? And all you're thinking about is what's in front of you.
You know, people have said to me, Jay, hearing your voice and John's voice on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock almost leads me to some type of Pavlovian response where it just becomes like the day just gets, it's like the sun rises, there's cartoon bluebirds tying ribbons in your hair, like the whole thing is great. The whole thing is great.
You're like saying that almost kind of in a joking, that's real.
Yes, that's real.
That's a real, and you know why? Because it happened to me this past Saturday. I'm in the car, right? Yep. I'm in the car, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, what time is it?
Oh my God.
And I put it on, and sure enough, there we are.
There you go.
There we are. And you know, I got to hear, like, wow, you don't sound as good as you think you sound. Not like Jason.
I would have said that different. I would have said that better. I would have been a little more clear.
Exactly, right? I would have been a little more clear.
Critical analysis.
I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have kind of diced it up as much as I do. I mean, granted, I'm a I get paid for all of it.
Yes,
right? I get
that's
paid
true.
for all
that's
of
true.
it.
You are a professional. You are a media professional.
But the great thing about it is you get to hear the jokes again, right? Yeah. So, right, and I'm like,
if you thought they were funny the first time, you even know it's coming, and it's still funny.
I mean, no one can laugh at their own joke better than I can. And I'm driving. I'm like, this is great, right? So you're right. The Pavlovian. This show is designed to bring you to a better place.
Yes. About things that might not bring you to a better place. So
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
excellent.
So do you have something that you wanted to... Oh, by the way, this is Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Tom Harmon from the Holliston Hub. Jay Marsden.
We got a little ahead of ourselves.
We did.
We dove right in. Right in the deep end of the pool.
He's from the Marsden Law Group. I'm John Drone from Main Effort Financial. You can reach us on moneyinthelaw.net. There's some really current pictures there that are on.
I look as good as I do now. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
I mean, you're an attractive man.
Yes, I've heard that.
We can say that. We can say that. But as attractive you are on the outside, it's your personality.
Oh my God.
It's your
inside.
personality,
so beautiful
right?
Inside.
And that's the same thing I say about my friend Tom Harmon.
The same way.
It's his personality. He's warm. He's kind.
Gregarious.
And always thoughtful. Tom always puts everybody before himself.
I agree with that.
Right? How many times? I mean, look at all this stuff. Look at all this gear that he's got here. Right? Buckets of it. Right?
We're part of the team.
And he says, and we say, hey, we say it knowing that we don't really want to do it. We say, hey, Tom, do you need a hand with any of that? As we're walking out the door, and
we always politely ask, hoping he's going to say no. Of course, understood.
Wishing, but more than anything, that he's
we know
going to say no.
we're pretty sure he's going to say no. That's why we ask.
If he doesn't say no, then we're like, whoa, what's wrong?
I mean, that looks heavy. He's struggling with all that stuff. Wow, God bless him. What a man.
Tom, why are you hunched over like that?
He should have taken 2 trips. I don't know why he doesn't take 2 trips.
The elevator's working now. Tom, you should do that. You should do that in 2 trips.
God, it looks heavy. God, yep.
So, as you know, this is Money in the Law. I'm back to Tom. So, what I wanted to talk about today is all the things that I'm thankful for. I want to talk. It's the Thanksgiving, right?
I thought we were going to do our other uplifting Thanksgiving story.
What's that?
Show. All the things to keep an eye on this weekend with your parents to make sure that you can kind of get a sense
of
where everybody's at.
Well, that's the opposite of the uplifting.
I thought that's what we're doing.
We can. Absolutely.
Let's touch on
absolutely. We you know what we need to do? We need to kind of acknowledge it. We need to address it because it's a real thing. It really happened.
Well, and it has some real history, which is pretty funny behind that. That's why we think it's like, oh my God, the irony is so.
It's funny, but it's
so
not.
Rich. It's so rich.
But it's real, right?
Yes.
And that's what we can say more than anything else. When you listen to Money in the Law and you listen to the words that we say, you say, no matter what, you say, you know what those guys are? they are reality. We're like Sergeant Barnes in Platoon.
Yes.
I am reality.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
So-
it is reality. That's
So
right.
there's
That's
some-
right.
So the reality is yep, there are some things that you might want to keep an eye on.
Yes.
That you might that have
Yes.
that we've had
Take advantage of
experience
the
in.
opportunity. Take advantage of the
And,
opportunity.
and
It's like
also, but also there's the things that you might want to keep an eye on that maybe you don't notice because you're caught up in the hustle or in the bustle and you're
Sure.
caught up in kind of the anxiety and you want everything to be perfect. Is to just take a step back and and acknowledge the things, see the things that you should be grateful for.
well, I mean, this is quite possibly my favorite week of the year.
Stop it.
No, I know. Because
And
you know what?
And I get to spend some of this week with you.
Oh,
This is
cheers,
fantastic.
cheers. Yes, cheers. It's my favorite week of the year because there's a lightness as the week goes on.
Oh, it's a nothing of a week.
That's right. There's a lightness to the week. I mean, when I worked at that small mutual fund company in town, this was the week that you caught up with everybody in the office,
Yeah.
right? Because you'd
No
some
one's
respects
working.
everyone's taking a slightly more lackadaisical approach to the work, because as the week, like Monday's kind of a normal day, you're trying to figure out things for the week, but once you hit like Tuesday lunchtime, you can feel like everybody just downshifts.
It's kind of a normal day, but it's not.
No.
Because it's a normal day to plan for next week.
Yes,
That's
it
what
is.
it is. It's
Yes,
like
it
so. And what I love like the week leading up to it, because you start like looking at your schedule and you're talking to people like, hey, when do you want to connect? And they're like, well, next week is dicey. Next week is tough.
Next week's gonna be tough.
Because there's Monday, which
Right. Which is supposed to be a normal work day.
I'd rather just plan my Monday for the next week.
I'd rather.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And then there's Tuesday, which is the day before Wednesday.
Right, and it's
And
the day after Monday, and so I'm
it's
not
that
sure
in-between day where you think, okay, I'm going to get some work done.
Right.
But if I'm in the office, what am I thinking about? I'm not thinking about work. I'm thinking about what's happening on Thursday.
Well, and I'm thinking I might take a slightly longer lunch. I might be kind of like looking at the punching out a little early because it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, and then you get to today, and it's like people barely show up in they're showing up in their pajamas, right? I'm only going to be here for a couple of hours.
Well, it's a short day.
Yeah.
It's like the classic half day at school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm here. You see me here, right?
Yes.
And that was kind of a thing when back in the old days in the Army, like you just acknowledge the fact everybody saw you at work.
Yeah.
That's all you needed. You're good, and you kind of made sure you made those connections. Hey, what's up? How's it going? How you doing? Yeah. You guys got plans? All right, great. You know what? Everybody sees it. Because this was back in the day before video, before phones and stuff, where you could actually document it. No, you had to get some witnesses.
Hey,
Yeah.
do you have do you have a pencil?
Yeah.
What do you need a pencil for? I just need a pencil, and I need you to see me asking you
for the
a
pencil.
pencil.
Yeah.
So now I'm checked in, right? Because then if anybody ever questions it later on down the road, you'll be, well, wait a minute. No. I remember you and I were talking. Remember I came in and asked for the pencil? It's like a Seinfeld episode,
Yeah.
right? It's like a corporate Seinfeld episode, and that's all you had to do.
And then, but the other part two of that was that you had to let everybody know that you were, quote, busting out early.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So, and it's not like you were asking for permission. It was just, you were letting it know. So it just became like fact. It just became, yep, I'm busting out early. And the sun's coming up tomorrow. The sky's blue, water's wet. And yeah, hey, just so I'm busting out early today. Yeah, I got an appointment and then I'm going to get on the road.
Well, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is like an extra Friday.
Yeah.
So like all of a sudden, like
it's better than a Friday.
When I was at Fidelity, it was like what time? Like all you cared about was what time are we clearing out?
Yeah.
Right. That's all you cared about. What
time
time are
we
we clearing
busting
out?
out, yeah.
And by the way, I know we're all anxious to get out of here because you know where we're going. We're going to that bar right across the street
Right
at
there.
1 o'clock because it's the extra Friday. We get the extra Friday,
And
so,
it's a half day.
Like I don't want to be chained to my desk, but I'll be chained to that bar stool right over there if that's what has to happen.
All right, so here's
Absolutely.
the question. And again, in our world now, right, and I'm sure in Tommy's world right now, like once you shut it down on like today, Wednesday, once you shut it down, you're done until next week, right? Now,
Oh, yeah.
Now, back in that mutual fund company, there was that thing called the stock market.
Yes.
That was open on
Friday.
Friday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And usually in those kind of places where you're like, you have clients that are going to be a jerk and call you.
Someone's going to call you on Friday at 12 o'clock. I need a balance.
Make a trade or
I need to get a
something,
quote.
right?
I want to review my entire portfolio.
Yeah, and
you're
there was no remote working back then. So somebody is going to work on Friday.
Oh yeah. If you couldn't get the day off because you had burned, and now it's the end of the year, right? So you may have chosen poorly with your vacation time scheduling, or you're doing the math and you're saying, well, I'd rather take this day and get another day later. Or like when the kids were little, you were trying to pile up that time for school vacation week so you could stay married. So you're like, I'd take my vacation time then. So that Friday after Thanksgiving, you were like, let's see, I could go in, I could read the paper for a good portion of the morning, lunch.
Because how else am I going to learn about the markets?
Push a couple of things, and then I could be out the door early. Do I want to burn the vacay day? It could be an easy day.
Well, that's it. It
could be an easy day.
That's the one thing.
That's the calculus.
Is that, well, because it's that Friday, and so many people have taken it off. So, it's like it's a shell of an organization.
No one's around. I would try to make some calls, but no one's picking up.
It could be the easiest day of the year. It could be not unlike the non-airborne qualified guys in Ranger School on the day of the jump. Their job, all we do is we set up the landing zone and the rally point. So our job is to sit around on a beautiful sunny day, make a circle, and then bring the guys in. Hey, you just have a hard jump? Yeah, your leg hurt? Great, come here. Let me give me your shoe. Yeah, come here, young grasshopper. So that's what you do at Fidelity on a Friday.
Oh, yeah. And then same thing. Then you're like, all right, well, why don't we get out of here at 4 o'clock? And, where should we go? Well, we head across the street again. Weren't we just there? I feel like we were just here.
Game day.
You know what? I feel like we were just here. Because we were just here.
We were just here. Oh, good times. Good times. All right, so I hope everybody has great plans and is kind of in the middle of all this, in the middle of this weekend. And really, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope that the Thanksgiving
spend time with family.
Yep, and I hope that
full advantage,
that it sticks out, right? So that it continues. So at my house, everybody's back. Nice. So I got the whole crew there. So nice. And I'll tell you we're going to take three breaks. So before we go to break, I just want to say that this is if I'm not grateful for anything more on God's green earth. And I'm saying this to all of you young parents out there, all right? Because and people would say it to me, and I'd be like, yeah, in one ear and out the other, because you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
That when your kids are all home and you're just in your life and everybody, it's just day to day and your school and vacation and stuff and everything, and you're just used to having everybody around. When they leave, and then you're like, they're not here anymore, and then it's like you miss that. Just having everybody in the same, just knowing that everybody's around.
Yep.
And when they come back, so this morning, I wake up this morning, I'm making coffee, and I'm like, I got everybody in the house right now. Like everybody's here, and the dog knows it, right? The dog's, you know what? This is way different than usual. Everybody's here, and and you're like, got everybody here, and you're like, wow, that's great. Even if I don't have a plan, I just know that right now everybody's in the house, and if I want to go talk to Chloe, I go doon doon doon. Hey, you sleeping?
The vibe is different. The vibe is different. It feels different. It feels complete.
Yeah, it feels complete, and you work to be able to kind of get past that when your nest empties and you're like, oh yeah, we get used to it, and you kind of look forward to the next time you get. So you kind of in your mind you kind of frame it up so you can manage it, but then when they all come back, you're like, oh, I miss this.
I have to give a shout out. My sister-in-law was always very, very protective of that time when the kids would come home, right? And my kids were little, and they were constantly underfoot, and so you didn't, to your point, you didn't know what you didn't know, right? So now, once they're out the door, I always give her credit. And you know what? She was always really good about protecting that family time when they were back around to make sure she got whatever she wanted, whether it was a dinner, whether it was just a morning, kind of lollygagging around, having breakfast and all that time. She was always great about making sure she got that time. And she was right. And she
knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was talking about.
Yeah.
She knew what she was talking about. So, we're waiting on one. She's coming in this afternoon, and then we are back to full strength.
Then the band is back together.
Yes, back to full strength.
Right, and the concert starts at 7 o'clock. And
maybe now, whatever, either way.
Or maybe now. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be a little more adherent to our break times here on Money in the Law. Yes. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to talk about some of the realities of kind of life and aging, and what you have to, some of the things that you can look for, now that you have your whole family together.
Sure, yeah.
And we're also going to talk about some of the things, that we can all remind ourselves to be grateful for.
Got it. All right.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Maynette for Financial. Tom is on the bag today, and we are just sitting here chit-chatting during this Thanksgiving weekend celebration here on Money in the Law, just talking about all things good, all things to be thankful for, and just kind of reminiscing a little bit. And
It's like a reminiscent, yeah.
very reminiscent. Yep, that's right. As we head into this crazy holiday season, which was made clearly apparent by the ever-increasing number of Christmas commercials that showed up on TV this week.
Yeah,
flirting with that line in the sand. You know, they're
It's
always
not
out
a
there.
line. It's more of a guideline than
They
a
go
rule.
charging
It's-
right through it. Yep, they go charging right through it.
But there's, and again, just to talk a little bit of like finance, there's a reason for it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, because those commercials aren't free.
No,
no,
no.
all the advertising isn't free.
No.
And so when they're sitting there balancing their books and saying, hey, and the advertising, Dave stands up and says, yeah, we need more money for advertising because if we don't put 11 car commercials on every show, people are going to buy a Ford instead of buying a Toyota.
Well, and there's also a conversation that goes on that says, look, we know what our cash flow looks like from a business perspective, and some businesses will tell you we make X percent of our money for the year in the next 5 weeks, right? Like this is it. So the push is on, right?
Yeah.
This is Americans are running around with their credit cards looking to buy something for somebody. So if you're in the sweater business, you want to get some eyeballs on your stuff so you can get some sweaters out the door.
If you're in the cozy blanket business,
That's right. That's right.
You're not buying a cozy blanket in June.
Let's see, slippers or wooden shoes? I'm going to go slippers for $200, Alex, please. Thank you very much. That's what's going out the door. So this is the season for it. So it's all good.
So you know what? So don't blame. So a good example of something. Don't get hung up on it, right? You know what? Like you see it, you're like, right? Really?
Well,
You know?
isn't that the way of the world, right? It's all how you respond to it, right?
Yep.
You can sit there and you can complain about it for 45 minutes like I'll probably do. Or you can just say, look, this is what it is. I'm not going to change it. I don't run a gigantic, marketing company. I don't run a network. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do. That's it. That's all it is.
And maybe say kind of take it for what it is, and which is this is something you can apply to many facets of your life,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Kind of take it for what it is, accept it, right?
Yep.
Understand it, right? Or try to understand it, right? And then don't let that affect you. Don't let that affect your kind of the direction that you're heading, your direction of travel.
All you can
as
do
we
is
say.
control your response to it. That's what
right.
the whole thing's all about. That's
right.
what the Stoics would say. It's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Stoicism. I love it. All right. So speaking of stoicism, let's talk about kind of the reality. Let's talk about things that happen, that could happen. And we've advised you on this in years past. We've said, hey, you know what? When you get together at Thanksgiving, it's a big family time.
Yep.
Not a bad time. Not a bad time, especially when you're with some of your elder relatives. Is that just let's kind of see where they're at. Like kind of take it. Instead of doing all the talking, which probably is difficult for you. I'm not going to. I will say,
please,
Ann,
please,
right?
please.
Probably sometimes it happens that
Two guys
there's-
who talk for a living, believe me, it is not a day off
Right.
for our families.
So maybe we turn the mics off, right,
Yeah.
and just do some listening,
Yeah.
and maybe ask a few questions. But it's and again, this is not the point of the holidays, but it's a great opportunity to take advantage of kind of especially with everybody there, just to kind of see to do a little eval, especially if you haven't seen people in a while.
Yeah, and this actually comes out, I won't get into the details, but this comes out of some very personal experience where, we've said this on the show, we've spent a lot of time talking about this on the previous Thanksgiving Day show, if you will, that this is a great time to, when you're getting together, specifically when you're getting together with mom and dad, for example, or even grandparents, depending on the arrangement. But this is a great time to kind of take stock of what's going on, right? And you're going to show up and you're going to potentially get to see them in their natural element, and you're going to get a sense of how are they holding up, right? And, for some people, they may not be as fortunate as we are to see those members of the family on that regular basis. I mean, we see them all the time. They're 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away. Seeing those folks in my family is not that difficult because we do catch up all the time. But if you're flying in from out of town, or you don't get a chance to see mom all that much, or she lives in upstate New York and you're down here, and so there's a real distance that makes more frequent gatherings a bit of a challenge. This is a great opportunity to just very quietly, kind of on the QT, just observe and see what's going on. The things you're looking for are things like is there a pile of unopened mail hanging around that normally wouldn't be hanging around?
Right.
Mom or dad's been a very meticulous bill payer for a million years. Now all of a sudden that's not happening. could be something to ask, not at dinner, of course, not, past the potatoes and what's up with all the bills, but, some things to kind of take stock of, right? We've jokingly said, when mom says, hey, can you bring this out to the trash? Go out to the garage, take a look at the car, right? If there's a whole bunch of where did all these dings and scratches and all this other stuff come up? What happened to the car?
Yeah.
Right?
If the registration says December of 2021, you're like, huh? Yeah.
Dad was usually pretty good about that stuff, right? Is there because families will say, well, we're curious about when we have a conversation about when you shouldn't drive anymore. Well, when the front end is missing and no one is paying any attention to that fact and raising the issue, that could be time to have a conversation, right? When you first get there, right, you're going to roll in and you're going to come in with all your stuff and you're going to put a bunch of bags on the island and you're going to open up the refrigerator and you're going to start to put stuff in the refrigerator. Stop before you do that. Is the milk from the Kennedy administration, right? If the milk is, if there's a lot of
there's a lot of leftovers.
If there's a lot of leftovers, they look like a lot of them are from last year.
Been left from leftover,
This stuffing, when's that from? Oh, we just put that in there.
Delicious.
Yeah, we did last year. This is my container, right? This is my container. I've been looking for this container.
And it's somewhat in my mother's defense. So my mom, again, and that generation, right?
Sure.
That generation, it was a different world. They grew up where they were like, hey, so here's how much food you're getting for dinner. It's plenty. But there's no more. There's no. It's not like us where I can just pour more stuff in the refrigerator. I'll never go to bed hungry. Right. But back in those days, it was like they were really grateful for what they had. Now, I'm not saying my parents grew up poor, but they certainly didn't grow up rich. They certainly didn't grow up in a time where they were like, there was abundance of things, and they were very meticulous and very kind of frugal with everything that they did. So my mom, God bless her, will in her mind, she's a food person, right? She'll save stuff. She'll save food. And so we'll come in and not from last Thanksgiving, obviously, but her biggest thing is freezing stuff. It's like, oh, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna freeze it, right? And then I will defrost this chicken thigh that I ate in the summer, and theoretically, it's good, right?
It's exactly the way it tastes.
It could be. It's not bad, right?
No.
It's not bad. Yeah. But when you made me think of that, because when I come in and I'll always bring some stuff, I open up the refrigerator, open up that freezer, I'm like, that thing is floor to ceiling, like packed. I'm like, what is this? And so it's funny. My mom and I will sometimes, and my mom gets up early and I get up early. So when we're there, it'll be like, oftentimes it'll be just her and I,
fill
right?
the space.
And it's like when I get my mom time, right? So, and I'll come in, I'm like, all right, so I could go about this one of two ways. I'm like, hey, can you show me some of the stuff in the freezer? because I'm just wondering, maybe we can
incorporate some of that into
maybe we could make something.
Yes.
We start. Yeah, do the kids want spare ribs for breakfast?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No,
Who wants curry chicken for breakfast? You kids hungry? Huh? Who wants a little of that?
Delicious.
Huh? Yeah. Huh? Some frozen scallops from 6 months ago? Delish. What's a seafood omelet?
But the thing with my mom is she works for this kind of soup kitchen, right? So she'll bring some of that stuff home that they've made. Oh, we made this great dinner. We can't sit in this tray of vegetarian lasagna. And wow, when are we going to eat that?
Yep, writing the date on it. Yep.
When are we going to eat? The answer is never.
Yep, that's right.
And we all know it's never.
Right, yeah. Right in the trash.
Yep.
So those are the types of things that you're kind of, and again, like conversations, right? Is the conversation, does it flow like it did last time, right? If all of a sudden you're realizing, there seems to be some gaps in the action here. The conversation doesn't flow like it used to. There's some problems. There's some memory issues. There's some lapses. The idea is that this is just an opportunity to observe and notice and get some information to figure out, is there something going on here that needs some further inquiry?
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. I'm not by any means suggesting that you're putting mom and dad through their paces, through a backyard obstacle course.
Here we go.
To see if they
well, I was going to say the physical piece. Usually at that age, you're going to get that info. That's not hard. That's not hard to get, right?
Yeah, you're going to hear about it.
So how you doing? How's that back? Woof. How much time you got? Yeah.
Hold on. My bursitis.
Hold on. I'm getting another cup of tea.
Yeah. That's right.
So usually the physical stuff, they're happy to share with
Sure,
you,
what else?
ad nauseum, right? And that's okay, right? And that's okay because then you get to ask some questions. It's really it's kind of like the psychological, the mental piece of it. And another thing, which is real. And so maybe like they're sharp, maybe they, they're, and that's, the big scare is like if they don't feel like they're themselves, right? And they're missing at stuff, or they don't, they just don't seem like they're registering, or
They don't seem engaged, like they'd normally be very engaged, very interested in what's going on. All of a sudden now they're very distant.
Or if they'll repeat things, all that. That's those kind of, that's like real and very easy to identify. But the one thing that I think is not so easy to identify, which kind of comes a little more subtly, is, and it's not uncommon, it's like older people get sad.
Yeah.
Right? They get, I mean, there's like depression in elderly people is a very real thing, right?
Yeah.
So you think about it, I mean, I get depressed like when my knee hurts, right? And I'm 56. I mean, if I'm 86 and my knee hurts, I'm like, oh,
Well, and then you're going to ask, like, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Because obviously you have some conversation, right? So, you wouldn't say it this way because this is so obvious, but how are you filling your days, right? I mean, that's a great point, right? Like, are you, was somebody before going to the gym and now they stopped going to the gym? Was somebody a walker before? Now they don't go for walks anymore. Did they used to meet for friends and get out and socialize 2 or 3 nights a week, whether it's a card game, whether it's lunch, whether it's this, whether that? Are those things still happening, or have you noticed a real drop-off in some of the things that used to kind of bring somebody joy and bring somebody happiness and gave them purpose, right? That's always the big thing is, what's your purpose, right? You have a reason to get up in the morning. And if those things are starting to kind of flail a little bit, then you can ask some questions, and sort of figure out what's going on.
And oftentimes, especially, people like, again, from that generation that, they kind of grew up and did it all and and made it from from where they were to where they are now and has seen it all. Oftentimes they're not going to be forthright with that information.
No.
They're not going to say, "Oh, by the way, just so you know, I'm feeling like really crappy lately," or they're going to, so. But it's there, and you can tell. Like
you're going to kind of read between the lines as to what's going on, and then it can kind of color some of your conversation and some of your questioning strategy, right? But here's the thing: we generally suggest that you don't try to do is like turn the entire earth on its axis while you're there, right? Because that's not going to happen. Like you going in and saying, well, let's start making some plans for you and let's put you in this dance group and let's get you on lunch on Tuesday. Like they don't want to be told what to do, right? They don't want that aspect of it. You just want to be kind of cognizant of some of these issues to see if there's some further, discussions that need to happen. Probably maybe not even this weekend, unless this is the only time you're going to be around. But probably something that you're kind of teasing out a little bit for some future conversation, either with your parents or your grandparents or with your siblings about, hey, did everybody notice this weekend that mom or dad, I got the impression that this was kind of going on. Maybe if we approach it individually to have a conversation, we can potentially kind of unpeel this onion a little bit and see what's going on.
Yeah, and maybe it could be nothing more than like to start it with just kind of saying, if they come out with it and say, yeah, I've been kind of down, and like just being able to say it, right?
Yeah.
To say it to somebody who they know cares about them, is not going to judge them, and right, like you said, it's a great point. Don't try and solve the puzzle.
No.
Because you may not have the equipment, or you may not have the ability to do that, and it's instinctively we try to like let's fix this,
let's fix the problem. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe it's nothing more than just kind of hearing it and let's all say it out loud, and then and then the fact that they know that and the fact they've been able to do that, and then that enables you.
And then leave it, and then just leave it. Put it out there,
and
say, hey, Mom, I read an article, right? You can always say this 100 times, right? Whether you read an article or not, who knows, right? I read an article. I heard these guys on the radio.
He doesn't read.
And they were talking about, that how much, depression and how much loneliness, affects, a certain segment of the population. And I'm just curious.
In Cape Cod,
is that on this street on the right-hand side,
right?
Even houses only,
on Oceanside,
But I mean, that's, is that something that you and your friends talk about, right? Is that something that, do you have anybody that's experiencing anything like that, right? This is, again, this is, sometimes it's always I'm asking for a friend type of thing. So you're just able to sort of move that conversation forward and talk about it. And it doesn't, to John's point, you're not going to solve it, but then the next time you call, you get to ask the same question. And it might take a couple of these engagements to potentially open somebody up to where they might offer up that experience is being is happening to them,
Yeah.
right? And they might say, you know what, I do have a friend, but I feel the same exact way. Like, I don't have a lot going on down here. You know, you talk about the Cape, right? Everybody leaves the Cape in the wintertime, and so nobody's around, so I don't see as many people as I used to, and it's a little bit lonely, and it's a little bit, you know, and okay, let's, now we could, do you want a solution to that?
Yeah.
Or is this just something that we just have to kind of tough through, knowing that, you know, March, April, things turn around a little bit? So, you know, let's talk about it. And sometimes just making, you know, just opening the door to letting somebody, you know, tell you that that's on their mind is enough to kind of start this conversation and really get it going.
Yep.
You know?
And then like, yeah, maybe we can brainstorm, you know, maybe I can help, maybe we can work together to find, what, you know, and who knows, right? Or maybe it's more, maybe it's like, maybe you should talk to a pro. Like that's, you know, and because they'll like, they can kind of frame it up for you. You know, that's what they do, because everybody kind of is different, but everybody isn't, right? That kind of thing.
Is this clinical? Is it seasonal?
Sure.
What, you know, what are we kind of dealing with here? What's the way to go? You know, let's look at what we can do, right? And let's figure it out. And maybe there's some options. I mean, there was an article last week.
You were reading an article.
I was reading an article. There's an article last week. It was Warren Buffett talking about his big advice to everybody was that he felt like you should let your kids read your will before you sign it. That was his big thing, right?
And you're like, oh, how do I mean, you saw the title of that thing and you're like, set aside some time.
Hold on.
We pulled over on the side of the road.
Warren, it's Jay.
Yeah.
Got a minute? Saw your article.
Best. Of course you should.
So I'm not sure that I would take that position. I mean, you know, let's all agree that Warren's situation is a little different.
Everybody's getting something.
His family probably has a ballpark idea of what his net worth is. And
they talk about it.
When your family is saying, well, look, I'm getting $3 billion, and if for some reason you find out that your brother's getting $4 billion, are you a little bent out of shape? I don't know. Are those just like numbers on a piece of paper at that point? Probably, right?
I mean, I'm having like a Succession vibe of this thing, right? Probably you're a little, you know, you're like, you know, I'm not mad about it. I just want to know why, right?
That's right. So my response to that was, the typical lawyer answer, right? Because someone's going to call us up and ask us. They're going to say, I heard that Warren Buffett said that everybody should read my will before I sign it. What do you think, right?
What do you think?
And my answer is, well, the typical lawyer answer, it depends. Let's talk about the players. Let's talk about what's happening, right? If everyone's getting the same, who cares if they see it?
Have you ever heard of Pandora's box?
But sometimes there could be real reasons why you're doing things the way you're doing. So I have a completely kind of different take on that. I felt like that was, but the point of what he was saying, which I think is important, is that these conversations need to happen, right? His conversation, or his point is, you need to have a conversation about wealth and wealth succession planning, right? Or wealth transfer planning, and understand why things are being done the way they're being done. We advocate for that, but we also advocate for this part where there needs to be an open dialogue and an open conversation that says, look, I'm just trying to make sure that you're happy. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is going the way you kind of had hoped it would go. And if you were lucky enough to have this conversation prior to this, then you get to open up the door and say, well, we had talked about this. Right? So is this still what's going on? Right? Is this still what's happening? You told me that you wanted to live in your home no matter what for the rest of your life, right? And so, okay, well, but things are different now. Dad's not around, mom's not around. Is that initial thought, is that still the plan? Because you can change your mind, right? You can change your mind. And so you just
and you open that door to be able to, do we need to adjust this?
That's right. That's right.
And then how many times we talked about it? Like just that, the ability that it's to know that it's out there and you understand and then because people forget, right? Especially older people, they may forget, like, oh well, why? And you're like, well, we did this because of, you know, you said that, like you said, you wanted to live in the house your whole, you know, till as long as you could, and right now. Maybe that's, you know, it's far away, right? Like
you said that when you were 65 and you were still gardening and you had a dog and you were, you know, using the whole house and you were driving and your health was really good. You were going to the gym 3 days a week. Like all of those things at 65 that made thinking you were going to live in your house the right move. A lot of those things don't exist anymore.
But back then it was. And that's fine.
Right. Yeah. And so you can change your mind. So, you know, this is all about kind of, you know, again, advocating for this open dialogue so that everybody kind of understands where these plans go and where things can get off the rails. and have a conversation about them. And it's not easy. And again, we're always trying to advocate, have the conversation when the building is not on fire, right?
Oh.
It's very, very different, to have this discussion.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you're faced with the choice of assisted living or nursing home, that's not a great time to say, what are we doing here?
So back to our Thanksgiving timing right now. Tonight might be the night, right? So you've had Thanksgiving dinner, right? You watched all the games. You've had Friday's always like kind of like the recovery day.
Sure.
Who wants a Bloody Mary? Who doesn't? Right?
Is the answer.
Right? And now it's Saturday. Maybe you get a little exercise. You're out for a walk. You went to the gym, right?
Yeah, it's a normal day.
Yeah, it's a normal day, but everybody's still there, right? Everybody's still there. Don't do this at night. Do this like in the afternoon. Do this like in the, and hey, what do you guys want to do? There's some college football. We'll do this and like make some snacks, make some game day nachos.
By the way, this is this is a phenomenal walk talk.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenal walk talk.
Let's go for a walk.
Let's go for a walk. And maybe mom's walking fast. Maybe she's walking slow. Maybe there's not a lot of walk going on. But this is we're kind of removing ourselves from all the insanity. This is a sit in the back deck talk, right? This is a
halftime talk.
That's right, halftime talk. Well, halftime's
halftime's quick, yeah.
But but it's like to
you
your
could
point.
Tease it at halftime.
Well, to your point, there's a lot of sitting around, and everyone's looking to fill the conversation. So obviously, you're not going to throw it out in a room full of people, but inside all of this insanity, there are going to be those little quiet moments, and inside those quiet moments, if you think you have some time, there's an opportunity to kind of introduce some of this material, some of these discussions, just to kind of get things going. Because people are they're nostalgic at this time. They're surrounded by family. They are sitting
They're good.
there.
It's a good time. You're getting them at a good time.
They're looking around the room and they are experiencing in person, in real time, their legacy. Right? Yeah. How many times do you sit around a Thanksgiving table and somebody goes, can you imagine Ma and, Nana and Grandpa started this whole thing, 40 is crazy, right? People are very dialed into these issues. And so it can be...
And you're about to ruin it.
And you're going to wreck it.
Right? The Acme, like the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote blowing that thing
You're going to wreck
up.
it when you lean over and hand somebody a nursing home brochure and say, I think after dinner today, I was thinking we'd drop you off here.
Right? The real estate agent is coming by to just kind of take a look.
Clean up extra. Many hands make light work. If we could just put everything away, because I got a broker coming by to do a comp at 2. And by the way, that reminds me, don't put your bags away. Yeah.
And remember, we said that the house was going to be for Kate and Carol.
That's right.
and you were going to get the back woodshed over here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And here's the other thing. This goes without saying. Let's not have this conversation over cocktails.
Okay. That's a coffee conversation.
There's not a lot of things that I say this conversation shouldn't happen over cocktails. This is one of those conversations.
Pretty much everything we talk about
is usually
could happen over
discussed.
Could happen
but this is the one
this
thing
is probably not
that we advise
not
you
today.
to not dive in with half a bottle of Macallan's in you and say, I got some ideas about what ought to happen.
But I'll tell you what, you can tease it, right? You can say, listen, after we're done talking about this, which we just kind of need to, after that, it's happy hour.
Or tomorrow. Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's get through this, and then we can all sit down and relax. But I want to dedicate, and put a time on it. I want to dedicate a half hour to this conversation.
There we go.
That's it. And it's over. Set a timer, do whatever you got to do, and then move on, right? And that'll break the ice, and that'll kind of keep things flowing a little bit. But it's the right time. Again, we're not suggesting that this is how you come in and you make the focal point of Thanksgiving, lining this up for
I like
people,
the idea
of
the obstacle course and the SAT exam for your parents.
When you're not getting set, go.
Make sure you go the bubble in all the way, right?
If you can't do this course in 3 minutes, out you go. Yeah. Out you go. On the market the house goes. That's not what we're suggesting. That is not what we're suggesting. But again, it's a great opportunity to just kind of take stock, see how everything's going. And I think, again, handled correctly and appropriately, timing-wise, and using some of the suggestions, tips and cues that we've suggested here today, could make this a very productive time for everybody to walk away and go, yeah, everything is great, or we probably need to start thinking about some other help things here to keep this great. That's the idea.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, come right back for our second, our third, and then we're going to talk about the things to be thankful for. All right, don't go away, Money in Law. We'll be right back.
Excellent. my nice cup of coffee to get things going here as we kick off the holiday season with a little holiday cheer.
That's how we holiday it.
Yep, that's right. So we are here, Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. We're talking about Thanksgiving. We just talked about using Thanksgiving as a great time to spend time with family. Keep an eye on everybody. You're kind of a little bit of a cold case scenario there, but it's all good. And as we kind of get ready to close out the show here, last part of the show, we're going to talk about things to be grateful about.
Right, and as we were saying earlier in the show, it's easy to get caught up in the drama and the stress and all the other things that kind of come along with the holidays or families, like when you haven't been together and you get back together, and there's like the expectations of, and you always want things to be perfect. You always want in your mind you say this is how this is going to go, and it rarely goes the way that you draw it up.
Never. Nope, never.
Right.
Yep.
So, and it's easy to kind of get stuck in, I wish it did this, or, you think about things, we didn't get to do this, or I forgot to do this, or whatever. So, if I can give anybody any advice, right?
Please do.
You're welcome. Is try not to get stuck on that, as opposed to getting to kind of look for, and as we were saying, like kind of try and look and identify the things that maybe you don't see all the time, that maybe you don't get to appreciate all the time. And I think about, and we had an example. I was appreciative this morning because all three of my kids were home. Right, they were back in the house, and I was like, "Wow!" I can count on one hand this past year in 2024 where everybody was in the house at the same time, and it wasn't for more than a couple, 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
Right, where in the old days everybody's in the house every day. And we were like we kind of did everything together. We were lucky that we kind of moved as a unit, and you just take that for granted that, what, like, you always think, oh, this is how it's always going to be. And then when it's not, you're like, wow. But to be kind of grateful of, how it, and it's funny because, as they're like TV characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yes.
And you have, and I've seen your TV show as well, right? It's a great show, right? So, and Tom, I'm sure like your family, like there's, everybody has their own personality, and we're lucky in that, my 3 kids all get along, and
Sure.
and I know the Marsden kids, they get along like it's a little crazy. It's a little weird.
They do.
They
okay.
They are those 2 kids where like, and I was able to see that firsthand back when they were in high school, where Riley, the older one, was taking care of her younger sister Kendall, and I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are sisters? Why are you not arguing right now? I'm like,
How come you're not screaming at each
right,
other?
and Riley looks at me like, what are you talking about? It's my sister. Like, yeah, it's my kid sister. Of course I'm going to take care of her. I'm like, no, but you're in high school. You can do that when you're 30.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're jumping ahead.
Yeah,
You're reading ahead.
So the Marsden kids are a little.
Well, I saw a statistic. I don't know if this is true. I'd have to go back and look it up. I was thinking about it when we were coming in for the show today. And the statistic, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but you'll get the idea. So the statistic was something like, when your kids are age 12, you've spent 75% of the time you're going to spend with your kids. And when your kids are age 18, you've spent 90% of the time
I don't want to hear that statistic.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that because it feeds into what you just suggested, right? Like, if the question is, oh my God, it's Thanksgiving, and I don't feel like there's a lot of things for any number of reasons, right? I don't feel like there's a lot of things that I should be grateful for this year. And you're like, really? Well, hold on. Look around, right? And you get to spend time with those people, right? And hopefully it works this way for everybody. Not always, because it's hard to get together geography-wise. It doesn't always work out. But you're at least connected. You're at least thinking about those people, even if you can't be together because they're on the other side of the country, the other side of the planet, the other side of the street, whatever it is, right? You're thinking about them. Right? Yeah. And how many times over the course of a year do you literally get the chance, or do you put yourself in a position to sit down and think about it, right? Yeah. So you might be picking up the phone, calling a brother who lives far away, calling a sister who lives far away, and say, look, I know we're not getting together today because of geography or any other reason, but you know what? I'm thinking about you.
Yep.
And you're thinking about me, and let's take that opportunity to just let's just stop and enjoy that.
Yep. And appreciate that.
Yes. Appreciate that I have a person to call. Appreciate
Yeah.
that I can make this phone call, right? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. You know?
Yeah, so and it's easy to battle, and and don't get me wrong, my kids will battle, like
Sure.
they'll, and I've battled with my kids before, but they always come back, and they're always like, you can see it, like they're really appreciative of
Yes.
one another,
Yes.
they're appreciative of the fact that they get along, and there's a little bit of an age gap between Lily and the twins, so, and that's the other thing is like as they get older, unlike. Not like Riley Marsden, who she was advanced. She was emotionally far mature than anybody else. But like my daughter, my oldest, like as she got older, and there was there was a time there where she didn't really, the same way. I was the same way. My sisters are 5 years younger than me. I didn't even know their names. I didn't even call them by their names when they were when they were kids. And now we're like, the dearest of friends because as you get older, you like say, hey, you're all right. You appreciate them.
You become mature. You realize the importance of those people in your life. And,
Yeah.
and when you're 17, it's all about you. When you're 25, it
Your
can be all about you.
friends, yeah.
When you're 57, it's all about you.
Yeah.
But sometimes that changes. You kind of come around a little bit.
It comes back around.
And if you struggle with this, by the way, I'm going to challenge everybody who's listening to the show.
I challenge you.
If you struggle with this, then you know what? Write a letter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sit down and write a letter.
Yeah. Write it. Yeah.
Just put it in paper, right? Put pen to paper. Doesn't have to be huge, right?
And it doesn't have to be long,
Doesn't
right?
have to be Ulysses, right? Doesn't have to be anything, right? But you know what? Nobody sends letters anymore. So if you want to sit down and say to somebody, hey, we just got off the phone. It's Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you had a great day with your family. I just wanted to put something real quick on paper, thinking about you, thrilled for the time on the phone today, thrilled for the conversation, or sorry we missed each other. I know we sent a couple of phone calls, but just I hope you had a great day.
Yeah.
Nobody gets those anymore.
Yeah,
Someone's going to get that, and you know what? We're going to be pulling that out of their stuff 20 years from now, and they're
That's
going to
right.
say, "I can't believe you saved this.
That's
I
right.
can't believe you saved this."
They'll have that. They'll have that card or that postcard that you sent them.
Yep.
And they won't remember what you got them for Christmas the last 20 years.
Yep.
Right?
But they'll pull that out, and they'll probably reread it every once in a while.
Yep.
Right. But that's going to go in a cabinet somewhere. They're going to hang on to that, and you're going to see that. So in this age of I sent them a text. Okay, great, you sent them a text. They read it. I'm sure it's fine. But you sit down and put pen to paper. You go a little old school on this.
That's a different animal, right?
It's a different level.
Yeah.
It's different. It shows a real commitment. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, again, we're talking about things to be grateful for. If you have somebody to send
Write
that
some
letter
cards.
to, send it
Yep.
out. Send it
Write
out.
some cards.
Send it out. And if you get nobody to send it to us.
Send it to, and
Send
we'll read
to
it
us.
on the air.
We'll read it on the air.
We'll read it on
absolutely
the air.
read it on the air.
Yep.
We won't read your name, but we'll read the sentiment. We'll read the sentiment on the air, and we'll talk about it and say, hey, look, you know what? It's a great way. It doesn't happen that often. Every once in a while, I try to do it, and it just because it's the right thing to do. It's just because it's the right thing.
And
to
when you do it, it's a home run. How many times have you sent like a person a card or a client a card? I'll get a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, "Hey, I just got your card."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, oh great.
Yeah.
I was thinking about you. I know your mom passed away, and I know it's probably been hard for you." No, that was like a nice card.
Yeah.
And they're grateful. People are appreciative because you took the time to actually think
took
about
the time.
them.
And there was a window. People know. There's a window of time where I was top of mind for somebody. It's impactful. It's emotional. It's impactful. But people definitely take the same thing. I don't give a ton of gifts, but if I give like a book gift, you can inscribe something in that thing, right? Put something in there. Put something
it's
in there.
too easy, right?
Yeah,
It's
a
too-
no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, and you get that, and you open that book up. It's like It's like when George Bailey opened up the book from in Wonderful Life, and you get that book from Clarence, right?
Yeah. I was when I was at Fidelity 100 years ago. I had just got into law school, got my acceptance letter. So, of course, I'm at work calling everybody I know, right? Instead of doing my job, right? Calling everybody I know to tell them I just got into law school. And this kid who had just started in the job, he was in the cube next to me, for those of you who understand the cube farm arrangement, right? So he's in the cube next to me. Now, of course, that poor guy, all day long, all he had to listen to was me going blah, blah, blah about getting into law school. But you know what he did? He went out at lunch, and he came back, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he leans over the cube wall and he goes, hey, I got a present for you. And I'm like, what? And he hands me a book. I'll never forget it. It was Scott Turow's 1L. It was all about the first year of law school.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, I didn't know this guy from Adam.
Right.
Right?
I'm trying to remember your name.
I was-
You're like trying to look over his shoulder to see his nameplate. Yeah.
I was overcome. And I open it up, and again, don't know this guy all that well, wonderful, wonderful inscription about good luck in law school, blah, 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 blah.
He was the best man at your wedding.
Not the best man ever. But I mean, like, think about it. This was probably 35 years ago. I still remember it like it happened yesterday, and did go on to become one of my very, very good friends.
Yeah.
Still to this day, very, very good friend. But those are the types of things, right? This is the season for this type of stuff, right? You got a whole, you can do it all year long. You don't have to wait for this. But this is the season when it kind of comes top of mind to people, and people just tend to be a little bit more reflective, a little more nostalgic. So, get yourself a box of note cards, pull out a pad of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy, and just you'll change somebody's day, and potentially more than that.
And it's Thanksgiving, right? So we're talking about kind of the things to be grateful for, like those kind of those relationships and those connections are. When as you get older, right?
Sure.
Stuff is stuff, and money's money, and gear is gear, and all the things that we kind of get wrapped around the axle over, like where I went to college and what what my income is and what my title is, and yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, it's going to be those relationships, like those connections that you have with people. And if you have family, you're fortunate enough to have family, like those family connections, like you take with you. And then, of course, you have like your friends and like your colleagues, like people that that's the thing. That was one of the things, and we all experience this, like kind of as you go through your periods in life, like there's people that are there during that time. And then, you move on, you do a different job or something like that, where, you're in with a different group, right? So, and one of the things that I'll try to remind myself is that, and I really didn't, I never reminded myself, but I would remind my kids about this, is like, and especially when we talk about like youth sports, you'd be like, hey, this team, this U12, 8v8 soccer team, which seems like so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And we'd be like, all right, it's time for the team picture. Like, why do we have to do it? I'm like, no, because this is never going to be
this moment.
It's never going to be again. It's never going to happen again.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right. So like and that happens to you on a daily basis, right? So you're in let's say you're at the office, and you're talking to, and you're with your people. It's never going to be that exact same space. Your same age, your same, like where you are in your lives.
Your holidays are going to be different years from now, or even next year. Your holidays are going to be different.
Right?
That's what
every year, right? Every year,
every year the table setting looks a little different, or could look a little different. You don't want to think that way, but we're kind of in that business, so it's all about living in the moment.
Yeah, and there's going to be times when like things don't go the way you drew them up, right? Like so they'll be like, oh, I'm bringing some of my friends home, and so you're like, well, I really just wanted to have you guys, and because like when you have friends, it's a different visit, right? It's a different time, right? Like like imagine like if you guys go down to Florida and you're like, hey, it's just going to be the four of us, and then this person comes in, and then it just becomes kind of different.
Yeah, it's a different vibe, different how you sketched it out.
Yeah, and you're like, and you can get banged up about it. You can be like, you can get frustrated about it, like we said, or you can just kind of, hey, take it for what it is, appreciate like what, the fact, well, we're still all here. There's some other people, and, they're interesting, and they have, they're not with their family, they're with us right now.
We're going to make this a completely new experience. We're going to turn this into a positive. And it's funny you said they talk about like, this is the moment. I always think to myself, like when like sports teams, athletes and things like that, when they win it all, right? When they win it all, how do you not chain yourself, into the stadium or into the locker room and say to yourself, I never want this to end. Yeah. I mean, obviously it has to, but like, you're the Boston Celtics, right? You win the NBA championship. You've worked so hard. It's the right team. The planets lined up. Everything went the way you wanted it to go. Injuries, things like that. All those things happened. And then it's all over, and you raise your hands, and you raise the trophy, and you tear it up after the fact. But then you're like, at some point, you're like, so we got to go home, right? Like they're kicking us out of here.
Yep.
I mean, they're not kicking them out of there, obviously. But at some point, you're like, all right, I got to go. Like I need to like go home and recharge my batteries. And then there's going to be all these other things.
Life's got to go on,
but,
right?
But after that, it becomes harder, right? We couldn't get everybody back together. This guy couldn't make it. He was traveling. This guy couldn't make it. A family issue. Yeah. Putting all those people in the same room together, it becomes an impossibility. So it really is. That's the moment. It's the moment to just.
It's almost like and we used to try and do it. It's funny you say. So when I deployed to Guantanamo Bay, we were there for a year. So we had my company. We would our our call sign were the Blueskins,
Yep.
right? So when we got back from Guantanamo back in 2004, that Christmas we were like, hey, we're doing a Blueskin Christmas.
Sure.
And so we all went out to eat, and it was like one of those. It was like the Ocean's 11 dinner, right?
Yep.
It was like that, like the Goodfellas dinner. Like everybody came. It was a great time. We were there at the restaurant for who knows 8 hours. It felt
Sure.
like, right? And we're like, we're going to do that every year. And did it happen every year? Nope. It happened one time. Half the guys came, and
Yep.
then after
Yep.
that, it just
It's just impossible to get everybody together.
Exactly.
Yeah, can't do it. You can't do it. So
Exactly.
you're going to embrace the moment, enjoy it. There's not going to be another one like it. That's a little heavy, I know, but take it. Those and if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, if for some reason you're feeling like I don't have a ton of things to be thankful for or all this other stuff, then think to yourself, okay, so how do I change my mindset so that next year I do have a lot more? Like what do I have to do from an intentionality
Recognize that
perspective?
there are things that you can be
That's right.
thankful
That's
for.
right. You can control it. You can control it. What can I do this year so that next year I have a longer speech to give at the table, right? At the Thanksgiving table. We used to go around. We used to go around the table at Thanksgiving. We used to go around
you
the
don't
table.
need a longer speech.
We used to go around the table at Thanksgiving every year. We having dinner at my sister's house. My mother and father were there, and every year, without fail, my father couldn't get through the "This is what I'm grateful for,"
And he'd break.
Oh, he'd break down. He'd break down. He always get emotional about it. And then we, in true Irish Catholic fashion, would mock the
Give the-
daylights
right,
out of
yeah.
him for probably 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? But and he loved it, and we loved it.
Yeah.
But if you could set your watch to it, like, okay, you're gonna go,
Here we
you're
go.
gonna go, you're gonna
Here
go.
he goes.
And you could see him like hoping it wasn't gonna find him because he just knew, like, I'm not gonna get through this. I'm just not gonna get through this. And that's the type of emotion that this type of the year pulls out of people.
Put a number on that.
That's
You
right.
can't.
That's right. You can't. So,
All right.
All right, everybody.
So I'll say it out loud. I'm grateful for you, Tom Harmon, and I'm grateful for you, Jay Marston.
I'm grateful for both of you guys. I'm grateful for the opportunity
Yep.
we get to do this
I'm
every
grateful
week.
for Money in the Law.
Yes,
I'm
I
grateful
am.
for my FM 101.3.
Yes,
I'm grateful
yeah.
for the Holliston Hub.
Yes, of course we are. We all, yes, we
That's
are.
right. We are. I'm grateful for all of that. Like
All right.
more, and more than words can say.
That's right.
All right,
Nice.
so we'll see everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your holiday weekend.
We'll see you as
And
we dive
get
into the
ready.
beginning of
Yep,
Christmas.
it's game time, baby.
Oh,
it's happening.
God.
All right, we'll see everybody next time on Money in the Law.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.